have actually read research to back this up in using clients as mentors. I don't think it works. I think it's too much behind the scenes and the relationship can get too close. But I think the key thing with mentorship is really you have to have a clear objective about what you want and exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, those lines get blurred and it's very easy for a mentorship type relationship to start being abused. And I feel like you're taking advantage of my time. I've got things on the go, I've got other places to be, and you milking me for information that I would often charge for.
Sure.
So it's been very clear about having that objective. This is what I want. These are the skills that you've got that I want to tap into, or this is the network that you've got that I want to tap into. Can we talk about mentorship and move forward in that way, and then agree on the boundaries that needs to be put in place?
And so you mentioned the client, a client situation not being favorable. So does that mean that you shouldn't pay for mentorship?
I think it really depends on what you're looking to get out of it, because in my mind, as soon as you're paying for mentorship, it then becomes coaching.
Okay.
And then the nature of the relationship does change. I know a lot of women, particularly women, that are very willing to enter into a mentorship type relationship without the coaching formality of issuing an invoice at the end of it. So we go our separate ways, or we become friends, whatever the case may be. But it's really just being clear.
It's fascinating that you say that, especially around being clear and verbalizing kind of what I can get out of it and perhaps what you can get out of it, because I can imagine that at times a mentor-mentee relationship can be symbiotic in a sense.
Absolutely.
You could be mentored by somebody who doesn't know that you exist.
Yes.
But is it ideal in a situation where you do know the person personally that they actually are made aware of you're actually one of my mentors? I'll give you an example. So I worked at a corporate agency for a number of years, PR agency, and I learned a hell of a lot from the director of that agency, which is what gave me the skill set and confidence to go out and start my business. I've referred to him in my book as my mentor. He nearly fell off his chair when he found out that I thought he was a mentor. And I had then wondered if I actually should have maybe told him beforehand, by the way, this is the title that I've given you.
Hopefully he nearly fell off his chair in a good way. I think it really depends on the nature of the relationship. If you feel that you can learn from somebody almost by osmosis, as you were saying, without actually formalizing that mentor type relationship, that's fantastic. Go ahead and do it. If there's something very specific and something ongoing that you want from somebody who's not very easily accessible, like for instance somebody that you don't necessarily work with or encounter on a daily basis, then my preference would be to actually either request, specifically ask them, or have a conversation around it, just so that you avoid, in your case it was a positive thing, but just so that you do avoid any uncomfortable conversations or awkwardness around it.
And so then around a symbiotic or a relationship where it's a give and take, are those relationships that you feel, if there isn't money that's exchanging hands, so it doesn't become a coaching situation, but if, for example, I say to you, Nikki, I'd love you to mentor me on X, Y, and Z, and in exchange for your time, I can give you some marketing services, would you feel that is still kind of sitting in that grey area of coaching?
I would say yes. Okay. I absolutely agree that a mentorship relationship is it should be symbiotic. As a mentor, you should acknowledge that regardless of what the person's skill or experience is, there's something that you can learn from them. There's a lot that we could learn from a 22-year-old varsity student who probably has never worked in an office before, but they have a certain set of skills and certain attitudes that might be worth somebody like me, who's been in the business world for almost 20 years, might be worth considering and tapping into. So it should be that symbiotic, but and then she buys it, so not getting.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks for that. If you just tuned in, we're chatting with Nikki Stewart. She is a business owner of
workshops and actually working with entrepreneurs and coaching them around the type of investment you should apply for, at what stage, who do you approach, and more importantly, which is where my experience comes in, what do you need to tell them? So yes. How do you put that business plan together? How do you create that perfect pitch where somebody is actually buying into your business, but first and foremost is buying an area that busy delving into.
Always also opted for bootstrapping, but I've had those investor meetings where I've thought, I need an investor to take this forward. Then I sit down, I have a meeting, and ultimately I check in a partnership and have it, or in my personal decision. But I encounter more and more entrepreneurs who are seeking out investment, and when you see it on some of the major television shows that are airing at the moment, it does seem clear as being the next big thing, and they are just absolutely ripped apart. What would you...
Funny enough, during that I tweeted that I was going to do an investor presentation workshop around that because of that very reason. I think the key thing is that it's almost like getting a bank loan. You almost have to prove to the investor that I don't need your money to get the money. Because if you are unable to build up a business to either entrepreneurship, and I'm a big believer that everybody should be entrepreneurs, so it takes a lot for me to say that, or you potentially need to relook your idea.
Sure.
Because a lot of, as you say, the Shark Tank type scenarios that I've watched from all over the world, people are still sort of doing this as an alternative gig, or I need money to cover my expenses, or nobody's going to invest in you if you haven't been able to put up enough money to cover your salary. So there are those sort of things that you need to consider, and just think about why do I not need your money, rather than why I actually need your money. Why can I do this by myself and without your help, and what can I bring to the table without you before I actually ask for your help.
Because what I find so interesting on the investment side of things is that if the business isn't already making money, investors do tend to not really want to pay attention to what might be in the pipeline or what we can achieve if I have this investment. A lot of the times, like you said, entrepreneurs will say, if I can focus on my business full time, in other words, your investment earns me a salary every month, then the business will be successful. And that's just not something that an investor is willing to take a risk on.
No, absolutely not.
And so then if we speak about investors as a whole and really the type of investor that you need to look for, what would you say are the perhaps personality traits or the skill sets that you would look for in an investor? Because it isn't just the money they have in their pocket, there's more to it.
I would really look at what stage your business is at, because there are a lot of investors that focus on seed funding, late startups, already mature businesses. So it really depends on what your stage of business is, and then almost do a needs analysis from there. So it's completely company specific. What stage are you at? And once you've figured all of that out and you've got potential investors, you've also got to work with somebody where although it sounds funny because you don't want to be picky because it is very difficult to get funding, you need to work with somebody that you've got chemistry with. This person is going to come into your business, they are going to be a partner effectively in your business, and you need to manage that relationship moving forward. As you said, you never wanted to give up part of your business.
This one. Previous ones,
maybe other ones.
This one.
But to give up 10% or 50% or 25% of your business is a massive, massive step. So you need to make sure that you can work with that person. It's like being in a marriage.
Yeah.
You're not just going to go and randomly pick somebody off the street and get married to them.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that that relationship is sustainable and that you can work with it and with that particular individual.
Awesome stuff. So then in terms of the 18th of November and you being on the panel, you're obviously there and willing to give up some of your time to mentor one or two of successful candidates who pitch for that. What would you be looking for in a mentee?
My biggest trait that I look for in a mentee is enthusiasm. Any idea can work, or most. How much are they prepared to put into it? How much enthusiasm have they got? Because as you know, this is a very difficult journey. Fussbait and get through the hard times. And so that would be more what I would be looking for in,
Okay.
in a mentee.
Awesome stuff. Well, we definitely do look forward to November, so thank you very much for that. Nikki, in closing, how can people get hold of you and possibly get in touch should they be interested in your services?
The best way to get hold of me would be either on my website, which is thewhyeffect.com, and we also have a Facebook page, both The Why Effect and Infinity, which is double infinity. So go and have a look at our Facebook pages or my website, and you'll be able to get hold of me from there.
Awesome stuff, and we will also make all of those details available on this show as well if anybody is wanting to get hold of you. Nikki, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you on the 18th.
Wonderful.
Awesome
Thanks
stuff.
for having me.
Thank you so much, guys. See you again. Okay, that's live streaming. I decided to end it early.
Yeah.
Oh, no.